Picture this. You meet someone, and instantly you like them. Maybe it's a date. Maybe it's a new friend. Maybe it's someone at work who just gets you. And because you feel that spark, you start talking more than you should. You're telling them about your past, your struggles, your dreams, your heartbreaks. You think you're bonding. You think this is how trust is built, by being open, by being real. But later, when they pull back or lose interest, you're left sitting there wondering, what went wrong? Here's the truth most people won't tell you. Oversharing isn't connection. It's exposure. You gave away too much of yourself too fast to someone who hadn't earned it. And when people haven't earned it, they don't value it. That's why they step back. That's why they pull away. That's why you feel regret after spilling everything. We live in a world where everyone tells you to be yourself, be authentic, be vulnerable. And yes, that has power, but not when you confuse vulnerability with unloading your entire life story onto someone who hasn't proven they can carry it. There's a difference between honesty and desperation, between sharing and oversharing. So let me ask you this. Why do we rush to tell people everything when we like them? Why do we believe that revealing all our secrets will make them stay? And more importantly, what would happen if instead of oversharing, you learned to hold back, to let people earn their way into your private world? Because here's the reality. The strongest people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who know when not to. This is what we're diving into today. Why you should never overshare, especially when you like them. Let's get real about this. Oversharing is self-sabotage. It feels good in the moment. You're excited. You feel chemistry. You feel safe. So the words start pouring out. You tell them things you haven't told anyone in years. You go deep fast, thinking this is how bonds are built. And for a little while, it feels amazing. You're convinced. They get me. They understand me. We're so connected. But later, you replay the conversation in your head and think, why did I say all that? Why couldn't I just hold back? That pit in your stomach. That's the cost of oversharing. The truth is, oversharing isn't about connection. It's about anxiety. It's about wanting someone to like you so badly that you think giving them all of you at once will make them stay. It's like throwing your entire hand of cards onto the table in the first round of the game. You've got nothing left to play, nothing left to discover, nothing left to hold as your own. And in doing that, you sabotage the very thing you wanted to create, a relationship built on trust and respect. Here's the problem with oversharing. It takes away the mystery. Human beings are wired to be curious. We're drawn to what unfolds slowly. Think about your favorite movie or book. If in the first 5 minutes they told you the entire plot, the ending, and all the twists, would you even bother finishing it? Probably not. Oversharing does the same thing. You reveal everything too soon, and instead of building curiosity and attraction, you flatten it. You make it too easy, and what's easy rarely gets valued. Another hard truth, oversharing often comes from insecurity. You want to prove you're real. You want to show you've been through things. You want to demonstrate your depth. But the people who are truly secure, they don't need to prove anything. They don't spill everything on the first or second meeting. They let people discover them piece by piece, and that restraint communicates strength. It says, I know my worth, and I don't need to hand it all over to earn your attention. When you overshare, you put yourself at risk in another way. You give people ammunition. Not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions. Not everyone you like is trustworthy. When you lay out your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, your painful memories too soon, you're handing them the exact blueprint of how to hurt you. And even if they don't weaponize it, they might not respect it either, because information without investment doesn't hold value. When you share too much before someone has proven they deserve that trust, they haven't earned the weight of your story. And if they haven't earned it, they won't protect it. Think about it this way. Your life is a vault. Inside that vault are your deepest experiences, your biggest lessons, your scars, your wins. That vault is not supposed to swing open for anyone who walks by. It's supposed to open slowly, carefully, for people who have shown consistency, loyalty, and respect. Oversharing is like leaving the vault door wide open for anyone who asks a simple question. And what happens when anyone can just walk in? They stop treating it like treasure. They start treating it like clutter. Now, let's address something important. Some of you overshare because you confuse it with vulnerability. You've been told, be vulnerable. Vulnerability is strength. And yes, it is when it's intentional. When it's with someone who has earned it. Vulnerability isn't dumping everything on the table out of nervous excitement. Vulnerability is saying, I trust you enough to share this part of me, knowing you've shown me you can handle it. That's strength. Oversharing is different. Oversharing is you trying to skip the trust-building process because you want closeness immediately. It's not strength. It's impatience. And let's be honest, oversharing rarely has the effect you think it does. You believe it will make the other person think, wow, they're so real. I feel so close to them, but more often it makes them feel overwhelmed. Or worse, it makes them pull back. People need time to process information, to build connection gradually. When you unload your whole life story too soon, you're not building intimacy. You're flooding them. And when people feel flooded, they retreat. Oversharing can also flip the dynamic of a relationship in dangerous ways. If you give away too much too soon, you create imbalance. The other person knows everything about you, but you know almost nothing about them. That puts you in a weaker position because you've handed over all your cards while they're still holding theirs close. It creates a dynamic where they have power and you don't. And relationships, whether romantic, professional, or personal, should never be about one-sided vulnerability. So what's the alternative? Self-control, discipline, the strength to sit with your own excitement without spilling it all out. Real connection doesn't need to be rushed. It doesn't need to be forced. It grows naturally through shared experiences, through consistency, through patience. You don't need to sell yourself through oversharing. You just need to be present and let things unfold. And here's the kicker. When you hold back, when you don't overshare, you actually become more attractive. You maintain your mystery. You keep your power. You give people a reason to come back, to lean in, to ask more. You show that you're in control of yourself, not ruled by your emotions. That level of composure commands respect. So the next time you meet someone and you feel that urge to spill everything, pause. Ask yourself, has this person earned this part of me? Do they deserve this story yet? Or am I just giving it away because I'm afraid they won't like me otherwise? If the answer is the latter, bite your tongue. Protect your vault. Respect yourself enough to share with intention, not desperation. Because here's the truth. Oversharing feels like connection in the moment, but it's sabotage in the long run. Hold back. Let people earn you. And when they do, your story will mean more. Because it wasn't just handed over, it was trusted. And trust, unlike oversharing, always builds real connection. Not everyone deserves access to you. That's a sentence a lot of people struggle with because it sounds cold. It sounds harsh. But it's the truth you need if you want to protect your peace, your energy, and your worth. We grow up being told to be nice, to be open, to give people chances, to let people in. And while kindness has its place, access is not the same as kindness. Access is a privilege. It is not a birthright. Not everyone who smiles at you, who pays you attention, who seems interested, deserves to know you on a deeper level. Here's the problem. When you like someone, your natural instinct is to lower the drawbridge, to swing open the gates, to let them right in. You think, if I show them who I am right away, they'll see how good I am, they'll see my heart, and they'll value me. But too often, that's not what happens. What happens is, you give someone VIP access to your life when they haven't even bought a ticket. You let them see the most vulnerable, sacred, personal parts of you without them proving they can be trusted with that responsibility. And when someone doesn't have to earn access, they don't respect it. Think about your favorite concert or event. Tickets are limited. Prices are set. Why? Because the experience has value. You don't just walk in for free. You don't get backstage access without credentials. But in your personal life, too often, you hand out backstage passes to people who haven't even stayed long enough to prove they belong in the audience. You give them what should be rare and earned, and in doing so, you cheapen it. Not everyone deserves to know your fears. Not everyone deserves to hear your past. Not everyone deserves to walk through your mind, your heart, your dreams. These are treasures. These are parts of you that take years to build, years to heal, years to grow. And when you just throw them at someone because you're excited or infatuated, you're not valuing them the way you should. If you don't value your own story, why would anyone else? Let me be clear. This doesn't mean you have to be guarded forever, hiding behind walls, never letting anyone in. It means you have to practice discernment. You have to measure people by their actions, their consistency, their respect. You have to ask yourself, has this person earned the right to know me at this level? Or am I just handing them access because I want them to like me? There's a big difference. Here's something powerful. People respect what they have to earn. When someone works for your trust, when they show up consistently, when they prove through time and effort that they deserve your confidence, your story becomes valuable to them. They hold it with care. But if you give them everything up front, there's no effort, no cost, no reason for them to treat it as special. They'll take it for granted, or worse, they'll misuse it. Let's talk about misuse for a second. When you overshare with the wrong people, you put yourself in danger. Because not everyone has good intentions. Some people are collectors of information, not protectors of it. They want to know everything about you. Not because they care, but because they want control. They want leverage. They want to know how to get to you, how to keep you off balance. And when you let those people in too fast, you give them the blueprint to manipulate you. You think you're bonding. They're just gathering intel. And it's not just manipulators you need to worry about. Some people are careless. They're not bad, but they're not thoughtful either. You share your heart, and they drop it. Not intentionally, but because they never saw the weight of it in the first place. They weren't ready. They weren't equipped. And now you're left feeling exposed, embarrassed, maybe even betrayed. But that wasn't about them. It was about you giving them a level of access they didn't deserve yet. Access needs to be earned. Earned through time. Earned through consistency. Earned through how people handle the small pieces of information before you give them the big ones. It's like testing the waters. You share a little, you see how they respond. Do they respect it? Do they keep it private? Do they honor it? If they do, you can open up a little more. If they don't, you stop. You pull back. You close the vault. That's how you protect yourself. That's how you ensure that when you do share, it's with someone who has proven they're worthy of it. Now let's flip the perspective. When you don't give everyone access, when you hold back, you actually become more powerful because people sense that you're selective. They sense that you value yourself. And human psychology is simple. We value what's scarce. We value what's not given freely to everyone. If everyone has access to you, if everyone knows your life story, then nothing about you feels special. But when you're intentional, when you share slowly, when you reveal yourself with discernment, people lean in. They want to know more. They respect the process. They respect you. So the next time you meet someone and you feel that urge to pour it all out, stop and ask yourself, does this person deserve this level of me yet? Have they earned this chapter of my story? Or am I just throwing it out because I want connection right now? If it's the latter, pull back. Remember, you don't owe anyone access just because you like them, just because you're excited, just because you feel chemistry. Attraction is not proof of trust. Chemistry is not the same as character. You are the gatekeeper of your own life. Your heart, your mind, your story. That's sacred ground. And not everyone deserves to walk on it. So stop handing out keys like candy. Stop swinging the doors open just because you hope someone stays. Guard your space, protect your story, and let people prove they're worthy of it, step by step. Because when you do, not only will you protect yourself, you'll elevate yourself. You'll show the world that your life, your experiences, your very being has value. And only those who recognize it, respect it, and earn it will get the privilege of access. Control is confidence. Say that again to yourself and let it sink in. Control is confidence. Because when you can control your words, your emotions, and your impulses, you show the world that you're not someone who can be swayed by every feeling, every spark, or every moment of excitement. You're someone who knows how to hold your ground. And let me tell you, people respect that more than anything else. Think about the times you've met someone who seemed unshakable. They weren't the loudest in the room. They weren't overselling themselves. They weren't spilling every detail about their life. They were calm. They were steady. They chose their words carefully. They didn't need to over-explain, and they didn't rush to fill every silence. What did you think of them? Probably that they seemed strong, put together, confident. That's the power of control. On the flip side, think about someone who talks too much, reveals too much, tries too hard. They dump their entire history onto you in the first conversation. They're desperate to be understood, desperate to be liked. And instead of coming across as confident, they come across as anxious. That doesn't inspire respect. It inspires doubt. Because if you can't control yourself, why should anyone believe you can handle anything else? Control is confidence because it communicates discipline. And discipline is attractive. When you don't blurt out everything you feel, when you don't overshare just because you like someone, you're showing that you can manage yourself, that you're not a slave to your emotion, that you know your worth, and don't need to give it away to be validated. People feel that energy. They may not even be able to name it, but they sense it. This person is solid. This person knows who they are. Oversharing, on the other hand, screams insecurity. It says, please accept me. Please don't leave. Here's everything about me, just like me. But here's the truth. You don't need to beg for connection. You don't need to dump your entire story to prove you're worthy of being in someone's life. When you practice control, you let things unfold naturally. You allow people to be curious, to invest, to ask, to earn their way in. That's not cold, that's confident. Here's what most people don't realize. Silence is powerful. Holding something back is powerful. You don't need to rush to fill every quiet moment with words. You don't need to answer every question with your deepest truth. Sometimes saying less says more. Sometimes the way you pause before speaking, the way you choose your words, carries more weight than spilling every thought that crosses your mind. Control creates presence. Presence creates respect. Respect builds confidence. Let's talk about attraction for a moment. Real attraction isn't just about looks. It's about energy. And one of the most magnetic energies you can have is self-control. When you can sit across from someone you like, feel all the butterflies and still keep yourself composed, that's attractive. That's commanding. Because it shows you're not desperate for validation. You're not putting them on a pedestal. You're saying, I like you, but I also like myself enough not to lose control. That's confidence in action. Now, I know what you're thinking, but isn't being open important? Isn't honesty what builds trust? Yes, but timing matters. Honesty without timing is just chaos. Control is what gives your honesty impact. When you share the right thing at the right time, it hits harder. It means more, it shows intention. But when you spill everything all at once, it loses weight. It doesn't feel like trust, it feels like unloading. And unloading doesn't create connection, it creates overwhelm. Control is also about protecting your emotional energy. Every time you overshare, you're giving a piece of yourself away. And if the other person hasn't earned it, they won't handle it properly. They may dismiss it, forget it, or even use it against you. Then you're left feeling exposed and regretful. But when you control what you give, you keep your power. You choose what's revealed, when it's revealed, and to whom it's revealed. That's strength. Let me tell you this, people can't respect what you can't protect. If you can't protect your own story, if you just throw it out to anyone who makes you feel good for 5 minutes, you're teaching others that your story doesn't matter. But if you hold it with care, if you show discipline, if you make people earn it, they'll treat it like it matters. Because you've shown them that it does. Control also separates leaders from followers. Leaders don't overshare. Leaders don't need to broadcast their every thought or emotion. Leaders know when to speak and when to stay silent. They know how to reveal just enough to inspire, but not so much that they lose authority. That's why control is confidence. It puts you in charge of your narrative. You decide how people experience you, instead of letting your impulses decide for you. Think about the strongest people you've admired. Mentors, bosses, public figures, maybe even someone in your family. Did they need to overshare to gain respect? Or did they carry themselves with discipline? Chances are it's the latter, because confidence doesn't come from giving everything away. It comes from knowing you don't have to. So here's the challenge. The next time you feel the urge to overshare, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because it's the right time or because I'm nervous and want to be liked? Am I in control or are my emotions running me? That 1 second of pause can save you from regret. It can save you from giving too much to someone who hasn't earned it. It can remind you that the most confident thing you can do is choose silence when silence serves you. Because control isn't about withholding out of fear. It's about choosing with intention. It's about showing that you value yourself enough to protect your story. And that's what true confidence looks like. Confidence isn't walking into a room and being the loudest. Confidence is walking into a room and knowing you don't need to be. It's the calm in your posture, the control in your words, the restraint in what you reveal. So remember this, control is confidence. Every time you hold back, every time you pause, every time you choose what to share and what not to share, you're building respect. You're building attraction. You're building power. Because the person who controls themselves controls the room. Oversharing creates imbalance. At first glance, that might sound dramatic, but if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you gave away too much, you already know exactly what I mean. Relationships, whether romantic, professional, or personal, are like scales. They need balance to feel steady. Each person gives and receives in a rhythm that builds trust and connection. But when you overshare, you tip that scale hard to one side. Suddenly, the weight of the relationship rests on you, because you've revealed far more than the other person has. An imbalance like that doesn't create closeness. It creates tension, discomfort, and sometimes even distance. Let's start with the obvious. When you overshare, you strip away reciprocity. Instead of creating a back and forth exchange where both people reveal themselves slowly, you turn the interaction into a one-sided download. You're doing all the exposing and the other person is just sitting there taking it in. That creates a dynamic where you are vulnerable and they are guarded. You're out in the open and they're in the shadows. That's not a connection. That's an imbalance of power. Power imbalances can be subtle, but they're real. If the other person now knows everything about your childhood, your struggles, your exes, your dreams, but you know almost nothing about theirs, who's holding the cards? Not you. You've laid all of yours face up on the table while they're still keeping their hand close to their chest. That puts you in a weaker position because the more someone knows about you, the more influence they can hold. They don't even have to mean harm. The imbalance itself creates a shift, and you feel it later when you realize how exposed you are compared to them. Now think about attraction. Attraction thrives on curiosity, on wanting to know more, on the slow reveal. But when you overshare, you erase that mystery. You hand over the whole story in chapter 1, and the other person doesn't have to work for it. That's when the imbalance shows up again. They get to sit back and receive while you're doing all the giving. And what happens when something feels too easy? It loses value. It's human nature. We appreciate what we have to earn. We don't respect what's handed to us without effort. Oversharing also creates emotional imbalance. You may think you're building intimacy by revealing your deepest thoughts and feelings early. But in reality, you're placing an emotional burden on the other person they might not be ready for. Maybe you've known them for a week and suddenly you're unloading years of pain, trauma, or vulnerability. Even if they're a kind person, that's a lot to process. They didn't sign up to carry that weight so soon. And because they weren't prepared, they might start pulling back. Not because they don't care, but because the imbalance made them uncomfortable. It's like pouring a gallon of water into a small glass. The glass wasn't built to hold that much, that fast. It spills everywhere. And instead of quenching thirst, it creates a mess. That's what oversharing does in relationships. It overwhelms, it floods, it disrupts the natural flow that allows connection to grow at a sustainable pace. Another form of imbalance happens in trust. Trust is supposed to be built step by step. You reveal something small, they respond with respect, and then they share something in return. That cycle builds momentum. But when you overshare, you skip the steps. You hand them the finish line before they've even started the race. And when someone hasn't worked for your trust, they don't know how to hold it. They haven't proven their consistency, their loyalty, or their respect. So instead of strengthening the bond, you've weakened it by giving too much too fast. And here's the part most people don't admit. Oversharing doesn't just create imbalance with the other person, it creates imbalance within you. Because afterward, you start second-guessing yourself. You replay the conversation in your head. Why did I say that? Why did I reveal so much? Did I scare them off? Did I lose their respect? That regret eats at you, and suddenly you feel exposed, vulnerable, even foolish. Now you're not standing in your confidence. You're stuck in self-doubt. That's another form of imbalance. Your inner state is shaken because you gave away more than you were ready to. Oversharing also creates dependency imbalance. You start relying on the other person for validation because now they know your story. You want them to reassure you that it's okay, that they still like you, that they're not judging you. But think about it. You've just placed your self-worth in their hands. That's a dangerous imbalance because now their reaction dictates how you feel about yourself. If they pull away, you feel rejected. If they stay, you feel relieved. But either way, you've given them control. The healthier way to build relationships is through balance. Share a little, see how they handle it. Let them share in return. Keep the scales even. That way, the connection grows in mutual trust, not lopsided exposure. Balance also means protecting your own energy. You don't have to hand over everything about yourself just because you like someone or because they ask questions. It's okay to say less. It's okay to hold back. That restraint doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. It keeps the scale level. Think about the strongest, most magnetic people you've met. Were they the ones who overshared everything right away? Or were they the ones who carried themselves with composure, who revealed themselves slowly, who made you lean in because you wanted to know more? That's balance in action. They know how to give enough to connect without tipping the scale. And because of that, they maintain their power, their presence, and their respect. So, the next time you feel the urge to overshare, pause. Ask yourself, am I giving too much too soon? Am I creating imbalance by dumping everything on the table before they've even earned it? Remember, balance creates respect. Oversharing creates unevenness that leads to regret. Hold back. Let things unfold evenly. Let the scale stay steady. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to connect, it's to connect in a way that lasts. And lasting connection is built on balance, not on floods of information. Protect your side of the scale, and you'll find that relationships feel lighter, stronger, and far more rewarding. Connection should be built, not dumped. That simple truth could save you from a lot of regret, confusion, and disappointment. Yet too many people ignore it because they're impatient. They want closeness instantly. They want to skip the slow process of trust and intimacy and dive straight into deep waters. So what do? They dump everything on the table in one go. Every detail of their past, every wound, every dream, every failure. And for a brief moment, it feels like connection. But it isn't. It's not real connection, it's an emotional flood. And floods don't build, they destroy. Real connection takes time. It's not a sprint. It's a slow walk. Think of it like constructing a house. You don't throw bricks and cement in a pile and call it a home. You lay the foundation carefully. You stack the walls brick by brick. You put on the roof, install the windows, wire the electricity. It's a process. And when you honor that process, the house can last for decades. But if you rush, if you skip steps, if you dump everything in one shot, what you're left with isn't a home. It's a mess. Relationships are no different. When you dump all of yourself onto someone too soon, you skip the most important part of connection, trust building. Trust isn't automatic. It grows through consistent actions, through mutual experiences, through time. By unloading everything at once, you're not building trust, you're forcing it. You're saying, here's all of me, now you have to accept me. But trust doesn't work that way. It's not demanded, it's earned. And earned trust feels solid, while forced closeness almost always crumbles. Another reason dumping doesn't work is because it overwhelms the other person. Human beings need space to process. They need time to absorb, to reflect, to respond. When you give someone everything all at once, you rob them of that process. Instead of inviting them into your world, step by step, you shove them into the deep end and hope they can swim. And maybe they can, but maybe they panic. Maybe they back away. Not because you're unworthy, but because you didn't give them the chance to build up to that level with you. Patience is the secret ingredient in every strong relationship. Whether it's friendship, romance, or business, the strongest bonds are formed gradually. You share something small, they respond with care, and then they share something back. That back and forth rhythm creates safety, it creates reliability, it creates balance. Over time, that rhythm turns into trust. But if you dump everything up front, you destroy that rhythm. There's no room for them to step in, no opportunity for them to prove themselves. You've skipped ahead, and in doing so, you've cheated the relationship out of its natural growth. Let's also talk about value. Things that are given too quickly, too freely, often lose their value. Not because they aren't valuable, but because people don't respect what they didn't earn. If someone doesn't have to work to know you, if they don't have to invest time and effort to learn your story, then your story doesn't hold weight for them. It becomes just another piece of information, not a treasure. But when you let people earn access, when you reveal yourself slowly, each layer carries meaning. Each story lands deeper because it was given with intention, not desperation. And here's something powerful. Connection is stronger when it's discovered, not dumped. Think about the people you're closest to. Chances are it wasn't one massive conversation that sealed the bond. It was dozens of little ones. It was shared experiences, laughter, struggles, inside jokes, silent moments. That's what creates depth, not one dramatic information dump, but a collection of moments strung together over time. Oversharing doesn't create intimacy. It creates imbalance. And imbalance creates pressure. Real intimacy, the kind that lasts, is pressure-free. It's natural. It unfolds at the pace both people can handle. That's why you should stop trying to speed it up. Stop thinking closeness is something you can manufacture by telling someone everything right away. Closeness isn't forced, it's cultivated. Here's the other truth. When you dump everything on someone early on, it's not really about connection. It's about fear. It's about fear that if you don't give them all of you instantly, they won't stick around. So you try to buy loyalty with your vulnerability. But that's not connection, it's insecurity. And insecurity never builds strong relationships. All it does is put you at risk of being hurt, misunderstood, or dismissed. Instead, practice restraint. Learn to let people earn their way into your world. Share a little, wait, observe. How do they handle it? Do they respect it? Do they respond with empathy? Do they share something back? If they do, then you can reveal a little more. That's building. That's the healthy rhythm of connection. You're not dumping, you're layering. And each layer strengthens the bond instead of overwhelming it. Connection should also feel mutual. When you dump, it's one-sided. You're giving and they're receiving. That doesn't feel like intimacy, it feels like imbalance. But when you build, both people are giving and receiving at a pace that feels fair. That's what makes relationships fulfilling. Not the rush of pouring everything out, but the satisfaction of watching something real grow between two people over time. And let's not forget the power of mystery. When you hold back, when you let people discover you gradually, you create intrigue. You make them want to know more. You keep them invested. Mystery isn't about playing games. It's about pacing. It's about recognizing that not every part of you needs to be revealed right away. You are layered, complex, and deep. Why would you collapse all of that into one moment? Spread it out. Let the connection breathe. So here's the takeaway. Stop dumping. Stop thinking closeness comes from emptying yourself in front of someone you barely know. That's not strength. That's sabotage. Connection is built. It's built through time, through trust, through balance, through patience. It's built by letting people earn you, not by throwing yourself at them. Because here's the truth. Anything that's built slowly is stronger. A house built brick by brick is sturdier than one thrown together overnight. A tree that grows season by season lasts longer than one forced to grow too fast. And a relationship that develops naturally through mutual effort will always outlast one that began with an emotional flood. So take your time, share wisely, build, don't dump, and you'll find that the connections you create will be deeper, stronger, and far more lasting than anything you tried to rush. Here's the truth you need to carry with you. Not everyone deserves full access to who you are, and the faster you hand yourself over, the faster people will take you for granted. Oversharing is self-sabotage. It strips away your power, your balance, and your ability to let relationships grow the way they're meant to. Over time, with patience, through earned trust. You are not weak for holding back. You are not cold for protecting your story. In fact, it takes more strength to sit in silence than it does to spill your heart to someone who hasn't earned it. Control is confidence. Boundaries are respect. Mystery is power. And true connection is never dumped. It is built, layer by layer, moment by moment, with the people who prove they can hold it. So the next time you feel the urge to overshare, pause. Ask yourself, has this person earned this part of me? Have they shown me they can respect it? If the answer is no, then keep it to yourself. Because your life, your past, your dreams, and your scars are not freebies. They are privileges. They are earned, not owed. Never forget, you teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you value your story, they will value it too. If you hand it out carelessly, they'll discard it just as easily. Protect your power. Protect your boundaries. Protect your light. Because at the end of the day, the strongest, most magnetic version of you isn't the one who tells all. It's the one who knows when to speak, when to hold back, and when to walk away. That's not just confidence. That's self-respect. And nothing, absolutely nothing, is more powerful than that.